Welcome to our backtesting 101 session this afternoon. We're going to talk about some ways that we can do backtesting and some of the tools that are available for backtesting. We're doing this in the Foundry. This is a community of thoughts and ideas forged in the crucible of objectivity, purified in the Foundry for the benefit of all. Our desire here is to provide content that individuals can use and to better themselves, and anybody is welcome to come in and join these meetings, these sessions. The Foundry is free of cost, so please share this with your friends.
Hey, Doug, I got no audio. I'm not sure why.
Okay, it's got audio back.
Yep, you're good.
Okay. So the backtesting parameters, first of all, the backtesting has to be done according to your trade plan, and the parameters would be developed off of your trade plan. And doesn't matter what my trade plan is, what's your trade plan? So in doing that, then we're going to figure out how much data do we need. First of all, it has to be enough to be statistically significant number of trades. For me, that number is 30. Yours may be different. Depends upon what type of trading that you're doing. If you're doing swing trading and you're doing, one trade a month or one trade every 2 or 3 months, you may not need 30, or you may need to go back further in time to get the information that you need. So how much time? Here again, that depends on how much you need to have that statistically significant number of trades. What interval is going to be determined by your trade plan. Your starts and stop dates will all be determined by your trade plan. So when we have tools in the SD software that generate a file, and you can see here, this is part of it. This test was run from 10/26/21 at 12:01 a.m. to 3/10/22 at 11:55 p.m. And that was the parameters that we selected to run this test. Out of that, we had 1,766 bands that were created, supply and demand bands. We had a total of 44,071 candles that we examined. Out of those bands that were created, the 1766, 1737 were actually hit, were touched or penetrated. Of the 1737 that were hit, 1,715 were broken and then deleted, which left us with 22 bands that were touched and not broken. These will be the long runners, where your significant amount of money is generated over time. The band success rate was 45.54%. And that's a pretty high success rate. And you think, well, that's less than 50%. Well, that's less than 50%. But then when we scroll all the way down to the bottom, which I don't have it here. This is a screenshot. You can see the points in play. And not always. I've had some of these come out where your points in play were negative, so you were losing money. You couldn't make money trading that, and that's a significant thing to understand. Can I use this trade plan and these settings and the tools to actually make money? Well, this back testing gives you the ability to see that. So we're going to look at the tools and how to use them, and hopefully we are back up and running with TradeStation at this point. I started a band test before we started this session, and it takes a little bit of time to run because you're collecting a huge amount of data. So let's get back over here. And see where we're at. We're still calculating studies and strategies. So let's go look at the spreadsheet. Hiding underneath the. Open this. This spreadsheet is one that we've created here in S&D software and played with and modified and tweaked, and we can take the data that we generate and drop it into the spreadsheet. And after we drop it into the spreadsheet, then we can manipulate it and determine time of day, the size of bands. We can do some filtering with RSI and trend and other filters that we have. And it gives us the ability to test our trade plan a piece at a time. If you have a certain set of hours that you can trade in a day, then you can set it up and look at just the trades that would have occurred during those hours. You can filter it by the size of the bands that you want to take. You can limit your risk, and this can all be done through the spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet is quite large. You can see it takes a little bit of time for it to open. It should be open here momentarily. And are there any questions at this point while we're waiting for my computer to catch up with everything? Okay. Well, we have do a little impromptu here. While this is running, I'll bring up the file. Our band tests are built here. And you can see right now we have 0 file size, which means it's still currently building a band test. Oh, there the spreadsheet just opened. Okay, so we'll come back over here. Okay, and this particular band test is in TYM. This was on 11 bond, which we'll get into. Actually, tomorrow morning we have a session scheduled for symbology at 9 a.m. Central. If you want to be there for that, we'll be going through that and symbols in detail. And this is on a 3-minute interval. And then when we get into the data set, here you can see a little bit of the data that we have that we pull. And this is one file. It has 16,637 rows in it. 16,637. And this data set goes all the way out to AH here. So it gives us a pretty good idea what and where we're at. And I see we have an issue right here. Let's see if we can fix this real quick. I had a different sheet saved on this, and I inadvertently hit the wrong key and deleted a section out of it and could not recover it because my clipboard was full. I've expanded this sheet from what we originally used. So this may give us some issues here. Okay, I'm gonna have to
So normally you can have about 12,000 records based on the way the sheet's set up.
12,051 is the max on it.
Okay.
So
So if you have a bigger data set,
12,050, yeah.
yeah, you need to. So it's best to reduce your time to get fewer records.
Yes, you have to reduce the time to get fewer records.
Okay.
So that's the key there. And we are, let's see here. I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment.
So there's a lot of factors that go into determining how many bands and how many records you're going to have. Because if you have your tool setting set up so that it finds lots of bands and you're not real selected, you could find out that you could only run a very short time frame depending on your interval. But if you have some very specific rules like follow through candles and things of that nature, it can greatly reduce the number of bands. And so you might have to do a lot longer span of time in order to find enough bands to actually have a statistical sample. So those are some things you need to consider when you're doing a back test. And usually what I try to do is I'll initially just run a month worth of data for the asset and the interval I'm interested in and kind of use that as a benchmark to help me understand how much time I need to run in order to get a large enough sample, especially if I'm deciding I want to use that asset for 3-hour trading. You may find that you have to go back in time quite a few months in order to have enough trades hit during the 3 hours you want to trade.
And that is something that I run into occasionally, that when you start limiting the amount of time that you're trading, then it will quite often your band count drops. So let me go through and look at count. Okay, that should fix that. Okay, so let me get back to sharing here. Actually, before I do that, let me check to see where TradeStation is. TradeStation is actually finished. Okay, so Share screen. Okay, so we have TradeStation back up and running. Now we're looking at TYM 22 12 bond, and this is and we're looking at the 2584 volume chart here. Now you'll notice on the TY has a significant number of contracts per price point, and this is a lot more than what you see normally in futures, but you know, it's something that changes the way that things function. We'll show you that here shortly. So let's go back to the spreadsheet. So we're going to be looking at this is a like I said, this particular data set that's in here is TYM 2211 bond, which the difference between 11 and 12 is insignificant for what we're looking at right here. So we'll talk about that more tomorrow. So we have the results. So first of all, let's just start out here at 1, and we'll take the entire data set and see what we end up. Right now we have 41 bands because we've got some filtering going on here. Okay, and then to go the full set, we want 24,000, which is 24 hours, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds. Okay, so there we have a 48.43% success rate, which is pretty typical. Now then, we're also still doing some filtering here. So let's go back to 1 here, which that is 1. Let's go here. What's this? It's the wrong cell. I wanted E5. We'll fix it here momentarily. There we go. And this is going to equal this cell. Now it's real interesting. I've gone through and looked at this particular data set previously. The widest band in this data set is 9 ticks wide. So if we put 9 in here, then that will give us the entire band set. And you can see right now it's still processing. We currently have there's 1688. Okay, so that's how many bands we currently have in this set. That's what we're starting with. So that is a significant, statistically significant number. But you'll notice this number down here, it will start dropping off. And I'm just going to give that a little color so it's easier for me to find. Oops, that's the wrong cell. I want this one over here. There we go. So it's easier for me to find. So if we, first of all, say I don't want to trade any bands that are smaller than 3 ticks wide. I'll put 3 in here, and our 1688 will drop. To 466. We took out over 1,000 bands. But what did we do to our number here? The success rate, it's still 48%. We didn't really change anything. Okay, so is that really maybe a good thing to do, or did we just eliminate a bunch of successful bands? The successful bands right now are 227. If we go back to 1 here, I say this sheet is, we're dealing with a lot of records here. 16,000 records. Okay. So we currently have 761. Okay, so we're at 45%. So we did increase slightly, not a lot. We took out a huge number of bands. Let's say, what time did somebody trade? Somebody give me a set of hours. Feel free to use your microphones.
How about 6 to 10?
6 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay, that'll be 6. Okay, that's 6 hours, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds. Okay, and let's go. As soon as that one loads, let's see what that does to us. First of all, we're at 1688. Okay, so now we're down to 1196. So we took 500 bands out. Okay, so 10 a.m. 6 to 10. Okay, so now we're down to 383. And we look at our successful band rate, we actually dropped. So we're down to 39% rather than 45%. So maybe that's not the ideal hours to trade this. Okay, but we can manipulate a few more things here. Let's try 8 to 10. So instead of trading 4 hours, maybe we're better off trading 2 hours. Okay, we didn't really improve anything other than we dropped the number of bands we had to play with. Okay, so let's go back to 6 here. Now, what we classify as a successful band is it bounced 1 to 1 after entering the band. So the band is created, price returns to the band, and then it bounces to give you a 1 to 1 profit factor on that. So let's go to 4 here. We'll do 1 to 4. 1 tick wide to 4 ticks wide. And let's see what that does for us. So we eliminate some of the bigger bands, wider bands. Okay, that didn't help us any either. Okay. So maybe we need to go back to 9 here, and we'll move the other direction. We'll eliminate some of the narrower bands. And keep in mind that a narrower band takes less movement in order to make it to a 1 to 1. So we just start at 2. We're currently at 39.4. Okay, there. We improved almost 6% by just eliminating the 1 tick wide bands. Interesting. So let's eliminate the 2 tick wide bands and go to 3. Are we going to come up again? What's anybody think? Anybody want to venture anything on that? We improved a little bit more. We're back up to our 46% success rate. And we still have 147 bands in the pool. So, you know, we're, they're statistically significant. Okay. So at 46%, we can do some other manipulations over here. We can do RSI. Let's just do that. 40 and typical numbers here are 40 and 60. So we'll try that. We'll see where we end up there. Now we're at 50%, so we're over 50% now. We've taken out 52 bands by doing an RSI filter. Let's try 30 and 70. We'll try start out 30 and 60. So we're widening our range a little bit here. Are we going to improve or are we going to lose out? We dropped. We took out less bands, but we have more losers than we do winners. Okay. So let's go back to 40 here. Okay. And let's go to 70 here. Now, from one of the things that I have noticed, and this just comes from observation, I don't have statistics on this, but from observation, when your market is trending one direction or the other, then you will have a bias one way or the other on your RSI. Okay, we improved slightly a little bit there, 50.86 instead of 50.53. So not really that much difference. Okay, so let's try 65. $50.94. Okay. Now the thing that you have to be careful of is that you don't get into curve fitting or over optimizing, because this data set may do well and you can find the exact thing that does the best on this particular data set, but your next data set may be a little bit different. And if you over optimize, then you can actually hurt yourself because you've optimized all of your settings to a particular data set that doesn't have a broad enough coverage to actually give you a good trading system in the long run. Okay, so like I said, this is on a 3-minute chart, and I forget what the data range here. The start was at test period start was 11/26, so this was November 26th, and went to 310. Okay, so this is about 4.5 months of data. Okay, so now then we just completed another data set. Let's go look and see what it is. Okay, here's the file. This goes from 3/1 to 3/30, so this is 30 days. Okay, we had a 40% success rate. Not great. Okay, and we have in 30 days, we have the potential to make 81 points. 81 points is $81,000 in 30 days, guys. So there's money to be made here. We just have to figure out how to draw it out of the market. As you can see here, we had, well, let's just go back up to our statistics here. We had 14 bands that were not broken, okay? We had 650 bands total. We had 612 that were hit, 598 that were broken. So it leaves us 14 bands that were runners. Okay, we had 367 right here that did not make 1-to-1. So we lost 12 points here. Okay. And we still ended up with 81 points here. Okay. And this is with the 12 points gone. So we actually made 93 points, but we lost 12 of that. $1,000 a point. Okay. So here we had, you can see here, we had 2 that were over 200-to-1. And the runners were 27, 28, 38, 50, 81, 93-to-1. And these are still active, would still be active trades in a 30-day period if we had taken these trades, because they haven't broken the original bands. So there's potential here, guys. So with that, and like I say, I just ran, this is the data set I just ran. You can see it's finished at 318 today while we were sitting here talking. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this header file, which this contains all the information about the settings that were used in the tools and the dates and the time frames and such. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to drop it in the header file over here. And like I said, that's there's about 500 or 600 rows of information there. Okay, so now we're going to go to A1. Go all the way across here to AH. And we're going to clear contents. Go back to our file, open this file. And go back to A1. Okay. And it's wanting to do a paste special. Let's see what this gives us. Okay, so we have our data. Now we've got to sort the data. Okay, my data has headers. And because this is a we're going to do by band number, then we're going to do by current date and current time. And then we're going to do the leg out candle number. And because this is a share bar chart, we have to use the leg out candle number, because you can have a share bar that has the exact same timestamp as the previous candle, but the information contained in it will be different. And so by sorting by the leg out candle number, it will always give us the correct order sequence on the sort. So now then we go back to our log file, and we're going to start back up here. We're going to go to 1, which is our beginning of time. And then we go to 2400. Actually 240,000, but 2400 hours, no seconds. Okay, then we're going to go to 1. Okay, there's 37, so we don't have all of our bands yet. And just for grins and snickles, I'm going to go to 25 here because that should cover all the bands that are there. Okay. So in this, when we get into this, that may have another band. Let's go 50 in here. A significant number that's, I don't think there's any bands that are 50 ticks wide, but we'll see. Okay, and that did not change our numbers or anything here, so that covers everything. Okay. So now then, here again, we're starting at 37%. Okay, so first of all, it's we'll go back to our 6 a.m. start time. And we didn't really come up any. And then we'll go to 10 a.m. 6 to 10, that's 4 hours trading. Okay, so we went down a little bit, went from 38 to 37%. Okay, so let's eliminate the one tick bandwidth. Let's go to 2. Let's see what that does for us. Oh, look at there. Picked up, we dropped a bunch of trades. We're down to 109 from what was it, 388, 488. Okay, let's go down to 4 here. Let's see where that takes us. We dropped, we didn't drop very many. We went from 109 to 102. And so we're now at 39%. So we eliminated some of our winners. So let's go to 5. Let's see what that does for us. Okay, that brought us up a little bit because we picked up one winner there. Let's go to 6. Okay, we increased a little bit more. We got 44 winners now and 64 losers. Okay, so let's go back to time. Let's try 8:45 as a start time, and then let's go to 11:45, which would be 3 hours. Let's see what that does for us. That didn't help matters any there. Let's go to 11:45. So that didn't help us any either. So maybe that's not the best time of day to trade this. So let's go back to 6. We'll go back to 8:45. There we're at 40%. Back to 8:45. So that's not quite 3 hours. Let's just see what it looks like. %. It's a little bit better. So let's try 7:45. And we're dropping the number of trades we have available, but if we can increase our or decrease our losers, okay, there's 42%, so that's not necessarily a good thing. So let's try 8:15. And we're still above that 30, which is our significant number that we're looking at. Okay, there we're 42%, or 61 trades. Okay. So let's try 6:15. But you can see how by just manipulating the numbers here, different hours, different times of trading, we can have, there we're at 43%, okay. So what we did, our number of successful bands didn't increase, but we decreased the number of losers. Okay. So let's try 6:30. We're 26 and 34, 26 successful, 34 losers. Now we're at 25 successful. We dropped 1 successful, but we also dropped 5 losers. So now we're at 48%. Okay. So let's take that and go back down to our RSI. Well, right now we're at 50% on our RSI. So let's manipulate this a little bit. Let's go back to our 40/60, which is where we started. Okay, there we're 50% success, 19 and 19. Let's go 45. RSI is the relative strength index. So there we're at 52%. We dropped a few more bands out, but what we eliminated was our losers. Okay. And let's go to 70. Let's go to 65 first. Here again, depending upon the trend, the general trend, there's 52%. So there's 19 and 17. Okay, and then when we can look at this, okay, we had 38% that yielded 2-1, had 27% that yielded 3-1. Okay, we had 10 bands that yielded 3-1. Okay, 10 of the 19 that were successful. When we look at the totals on this, I probably have to change this a little bit. That's divided by 5. Okay, we typically figure we can capture about 30% of what's available in the market. Okay, so we're going to divide that by 1 because this is basically a 30-day. Okay, and then multiply that times 12. So that's $30,000 a year, guys. Not bad for trading 1 contract. So how do you scale this? So you need to make a 6-figure, at 3 contracts, you're going to be at 90,000. 4 contracts should be at 120,000. So you see how just a little bit of time, we've actually been looking at this data set for about 20 minutes, and we have these numbers. So what can we draw from this, these conclusions from this? Trading from 6:30 to 8:15, trading 2 tick wide bands to 6 tick wide bands. So we're trading not quite 3 hours a day. Not even quite 2 hours a day. We have that ability. So therefore, we can see the advantages to going through and doing back testing, so we can figure out relatively quickly how we can improve our trading. Now, is this something that that will work for a year at a time? Probably not. I wouldn't say so. I've never seen it work for a year at a time, but what it will do is it gives us the ability to go through and quickly do these tests. This is set up in the chart tools. Go back to TradeStation here. In TradeStation, and let's see, you gotta close this. So when we go to data, and I'm just going to do this quickly, we're going to change the amount of time that we're loading so that it will generate faster. We're currently loading 2 months back, and we're looking at the last 30 days. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load 2 weeks back, and we'll run it at that, knowing that it's not going to give us the exact data that we need, but so we can see over here, we have our 0 kilobyte files, which means it's building the files. It's going to take a little bit of time for it to run, but it'll get there. And then as it processes through that, I'll show you another thing here. Let's see. Let me just look at this one here. Okay, this is 46,368. This again was a share bar, and this is 5 months back, 10/28 to 3/28. Okay, and the date and time stamp on the first candle on the chart was after the start time of the band test, and I chose this file because I knew this existed in here. So it says that there wasn't enough data loaded. So we have a lot of things in the tools that give you an idea as far as, is your data valid or not? Okay. So, and here's one of those negative numbers. Okay. We actually, for the ones that we tested here, we ended up below 0. Not a good thing. Okay. So close that. Look at this 987 tick interval here. Let's see what it looks like. Okay. Here again, there's not enough data loaded. It has a 63.64%. Okay, and it has 67 points available. Okay. It only had 12 bands. So here again, there wasn't enough data loaded for it to generate all the information that it was requested in the tools. Scrolling down through here, and let's look at another one here. Here's a 7-minute on MES. Okay. Again, we don't have enough data loaded and had a 51% success rate. An average success rate is typically 40 to 50%. We see quite often they'll run around 45, 46, 48%. And that's taking everything into consideration, all the bands, everything, before any filtering is done. So that's just your raw data pool of bands, supply bands and demand bands. I'll close this. Let's see where we're at over here. It looks like we might be back. Okay, yes, we're back here now. I can tell you this, that it's going to come back and tell me that there's not enough data loaded to cover the first candle in the chart, because it's still looking to test 3.1 to 3.30, but we told us to only give me 2 weeks of data. So we have the warning, and we have a 40% success rate. Okay, so let's now go in and change the band test in the tool. Studies, we're going to edit studies. And this particular tool we're running right here, we're going to go customize. This is the S&D chart tool, and this particular version is for our study group. And as you can see, each of these have a number out past them. There's 18. These are sequential numbers. And you get off down here, we have 300 settings available in this tool, over 300. And right here, we have our band test end, our band test start. We're going to start this on let's see, 20, we'll just do 10 days. So our test goes from 3/20/22 at midnight 0001 to 3/30/22, 23:55. That's our test. Go okay. The process has started. We can see it over here on our, we have our 0 bands or 0 kilobyte files already. So 401 is when we started it. When it concludes it, it'll restamp to the time it took to run. So we'll actually see how long it takes to run this for 2 weeks worth of data. And we'll look at the number of candles it found and everything that's examined and the amount of data that it puts out. And it really, for the amount of information that it provides in such short order of time, is pretty efficient. You know, sometimes we get a little impatient with our computers because computers are supposed to be fast, but the computer is fast, but it's still having to go through and access the servers back at TradeStation and pulling information from the exchanges. So there's a lot of data being moved here. A typical band test, from what we've run in times past, will have anywhere from 85,000 to 950,000 individual pieces of information. So when you figure that it's actually pulling that much information in a few minutes, it's actually pretty fast. Any questions at this point? And there are ways of speeding this up, by the way. We can actually turn off the graphics, which will actually make it run in about half the amount of time. I did not do that on this because I wanted to show you the tool itself as soon as it's finished loading. Okay, we got our, so 403 took 2 minutes to run. Okay, so first of all, we'll look at the band test file. Make sure we don't have a warning down here, which we do not. We had a 38% success rate, which here again, that's a little lower than what I expect, but you know, we have a limited amount of data. We're only looking at 2 weeks worth of data. So how many bands do we have? 221 bands that were hit, 215 that were broken. So now then we can go back and look at the data. Actually, I don't know if there's any need in putting this in because this is effectively the same data set that we have in the chart. So we'll not spend the time on that. But as you can see, it doesn't take long to drop it into the chart and then start doing the analysis on it. But first of all, we're about out of time here, but I did want to show you the tool itself. So we have bands that are created. The dot dash bands here are supply bands, and the solid bands are demand bands. And what we look at doing is taking these bands. Let's just make this a little bit bigger here. We'll collapse it up so we can see more on the chart here right now. I say we're only looking at 2 weeks worth of data. So the bands that are pink have been fully penetrated. The bands that are blue have not been touched. And I don't see any right here. Here's one at the top. Let's just zoom in here real quick. Okay. We can see this band here has been penetrated. This band is 2 ticks wide. It's $31.25 wide. That's the risk in that band. So we have that available. The 6250 here is 4 ticks wide. And I just know this because each tick here is worth $15.62.5. Okay. Because I know the market. Okay, we see all these bands. And when we see a band that's been partially penetrated, it's bounced off that band and moved away from it. And this would still be a runner because that band is still active. Okay. Same way up here in this one. This band is still active. That band is 2 ticks wide, hit it, bounced off of it. So I said there's a lot of information here on the chart. Go back here. We can see and the market is currently closed or will be here very shortly. There's not much action going on right now. But you can see this. So let's just jump over to MES. Let's see what MES is doing. This is the micro ES. Okay, here we had a demand band and it was fully penetrated. We created another demand band right here. Let me just expand this out a little bit. Okay, you can see the orange hue in here. This was the band that it created. This it returned to the band, the second candle out. Okay, and then from there, it's still right at the edge of the band. Okay, this band is $71.25 wide, which is pretty wide for the micro ES. It's $5 a point. So that's gonna be 35. This is gonna be 36 ticks wide. So that's gives you an idea on it. But you can see when you go back and look at it and look in time, just the, okay. So this particular band was created right here. It came back, returned into it, and moved all the way up to here. So let me grab a trend line. So here it returned to the band, and it made then all the way up to there. Hit a trend line, go. Of course, comes up on the other monitor. Show the price change. Okay. So that's 31 points. Okay. Let's see. I didn't put my time frame on here. Edit trend line. Show time span. Okay, that's 4 hours and 19 minutes. And it moved 31 times 5, 3, it's $150 in the micros, and be $155 in the micros in 4 hours. And here again, if you're taking multiple contracts on that, then you can multiply it by the number of contracts. You can see how easily some of these tools are to use. You can see the advantages of them. So any questions at this point? If not, I think I've spent my hour here, and I'll not keep you any longer. I appreciate your attendance today. Before we close out, go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, we've just looked at the tools and how to use them for back testing. If you need more information, go to sndsoftware.com. It's free to register, and access to the Foundry, which is where we're currently at, is free to all that want to join. You do not have to register to be in the Foundry, but we'd like for you to register so that we can keep you updated on advances in the tools. We are currently moving toward having the tools available in TradingView, and TradeStation will be will continue to maintain the tools for TradeStation as long as TradeStation is available. Any other questions? Anything else we need to bring up, guys?
Looks good. Thanks.
Good job. Thanks.